After the changes to Striker that came with TU14, I wanted to know just how much damage we could get out of it, and after hitting crits over 1 mil, with over 1000 rounds per minute, I have to say, I am pretty happy with the results. Hello and welcome, I'm Abrax, and in this video I'm going to be going over a high damage Striker assault rifle build that I've been messing around with and having a lot of fun with in Tom Clancy's Division 2. But before I break down the build, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe for more content, and a big thank you to my supporters over on Patreon. More on how you can support at the end of the video. This build is the result of taking one of my favourite damage builds that I rely on for legendaries or heavy damage in raids and smashing it together with the Striker gear set to try to bring together the best of both builds and create something pretty fun and, once fully buffed, pretty hard hitting. The build actually differs quite a bit from my other damage builds because of the nature of Striker. Usually I am a fan of DPS builds that give you everything from the moment you press the button. Glass Cannon, Vigilance, Ranger, talents that are there the moment you want them with no wind or build up. But like I said, Striker needs to build up its damage with the building of the Striker stacks. It's just part of the playstyle. So I decided to put this build together in a way that really leans into the wind up for damage, but once it is fully buffed, it's just so good. Like with all of my build videos, I'll be breaking down the build into its gear, weapons, skills, and so on, and towards the end of the video, I'll go over how I've been playing it to help you get the most out of it. So as always, let's start with the gear. For the mask, I am using a Striker's mask with weapon damage for the core attribute and crit hit damage on the minor with crit hit chance in the mod slot. On the chest, I have a Fenris chest piece, giving us the one-piece brand set bonus of 10% assault rifle damage. I've got weapon damage in the core attribute, crit damage and chance for the minors, and a little more crit damage in the mod slot. And for the talent here, I have Focus. Increase total weapon damage by 5% every second you're aiming while scoped 8 times or higher, up to 50%. Originally, I did have the named Araldi chest piece, Pristine Example, giving you 6% up to 60%, but I found dropping the 10% from the talent in place for 10% assault rifle damage gave a higher overall output. Focus itself is one of the highest damage chest talents, but it comes with an obvious downside that can be overcome with a little practice. It does take a while to get used to firing a fully automatic weapon while scoped in, but once you get your head around it, the result is very much worth it. Focus also synergizes very well with Striker because as you're building the Striker stacks, which we will talk more about shortly, you're also building your damage for Focus, and when both bars on your UI are full, you will just start to delete NPCs one at a time, which is a beautiful thing. The holster is a Striker holster, giving us the 2-piece gear set bonus of 15% weapon handling. If you're not familiar with weapon handling, it's one of the few attributes that actually increases several others, which in weapon handling's case is accuracy, stability, reload speed, and weapon swap speed, making it an attribute worth having. On the Striker holster, I also have weapon damage as the core and crit damage as the minor attribute. For the backpack, I have what is possibly one of my favourite gear pieces, the named Providence backpack, the Gift. Being Providence, we get the one-piece brand set bonus of 15% headshot damage, then I have weapon damage in the core attribute, crit chance and damage in the minor, and more crit chance in the mod slot. The talent for the Gift is Perfect Vigilance. Increase total weapon damage by 25%, taking damage disables this buff for 3 seconds. This means you will constantly have an extra 25% extra damage, but if you take any damage or take a hit, you will lose that damage for 3 seconds. But this only actually applies to your agent, so it's easily negated with a shield, which doesn't disable the buff if it takes damage. The Gift is a Dark Zone only drop, which you can also get from named caches. If you 100% don't want to go near a Dark Zone, or you've just had terrible luck with the named caches, you can run a normal Providence backpack with the standard version of Vigilance. The only real difference between the standard version of Vigilance and the perfect version is 1 second downtime. With perfect Vigilance, you lose the buff for 3 seconds after taking damage, and normal Vigilance, it's only 4 seconds, so it's not really a build breaking difference. The gloves I have here are a pair of Striker's gloves, giving us the 3-piece gear set bonus of 15% rate of fire, which is a big boost to your overall damage per second. I have weapon damage in the core and crit chance in the minor attribute. And finally, for the knee pads, I have a pair of Striker's knee pads, giving us the 4-piece gear set bonus and centerpiece of Striker, Striker's Gamble. Weapon hits amplify total weapon damage by 0.5%, stacks up to 50 times. 2 stacks are lost each second. Now, Striker's Gamble damage can be a little bit misleading, with most reading this as an extra 25% amplified damage, which is multiplicative damage. But calculating Striker's damage is a little bit more complicated than that. Each stack is actually multiplied by the last. This makes 50 stacks at 0.5% just over 28% multiplicative damage. If that sentence made you see stars for a second, I will link a very useful Reddit thread in the description that goes over the maths of how Striker's is actually calculated. It's a good read, so make sure you check that one out. Now, when we take that 28% multiplicative damage from Striker and combine it with the 75% additive damage from the chest and backpack, overall, we have a huge amount of damage per shot. Okay, let's talk weapons. The primary and pretty much only weapon I use for this build is the FAMAS. This comes with a base damage of 44.2k and 106.1k with this build. The FAMAS already comes with a pretty nutty RPM for an assault rifle, but when we combine it with a 3-piece gear set bonus from Striker, it shoots up over 1000 to 1035 rounds per minute. And the magazine size with the extended mag is 50 rounds. Being an assault rifle, it comes with assault rifle damage and health damage as fixed attributes, and I've rolled damage to targets out of cover in the 3rd slot. For the talent, I've gone with fast hands. Critical hits add a stack of 4% reload speed, max stack is 40. Reload speed is always a good way to add damage without adding damage. Shortening the time you're firing your weapon increases your overall damage per second. And with this build having a high RPM and around 50% crit chance, you will pretty much always have a full stack of fast hands with each magazine. For the secondary, I am using the ACS-12 shotgun, partly because it is a fantastic way to build Striker stacks, but also because I am a sucker for nostalgia, and it reminds me of using the showstopper with Striker in the Division 1. The ACS-12 comes with a base damage of 169.2k and 387.9k with this build. An RPM of 345 because the ACS-12 is a fully automatic shotgun and a magazine size of 20 shells. For the attributes, being a shotgun, the ACS-12 comes with shotgun damage and damage to armor as fixed attributes. And as with most of my weapons, I've rolled damage to targets out of cover as the 3rd attribute. And the talent I've gone for is close and personal for a little extra damage, and if I end up a little closer to a spawn point than I planned. Close and personal, killing a target within 7 meters grants 30% weapon damage for 10 seconds. For the sidearm, I always go with something with some variant of finisher, just to give the build a bit of a quick damage buff, just in case you find an enemy running around with low health. Finisher, swapping from this weapon within 10 seconds of killing an enemy, grants 30% crit hit chance and 30% crit hit damage for 15 seconds. Which weapon you use is preference, but my go-tos are either the M1911 or the named revolver Orbit, which comes with the perfect version of finisher, giving you a little more crit chance and damage. The skills for this build are pretty basic, with the main focus of the build being on the gear and weapon damage. I would recommend taking the Crusader Shield. Like I mentioned earlier, the backpack talent we're using is Vigilance, which deactivates the moment your agent takes damage, but this does not apply to shields. Using the Crusader Shield will give you a short amount of time where you can stand out in the open, take damage, and apply damage without having to worry about losing Vigilance. But the shield will be skill tier 0, so keep that in mind. The second skill slot is very flexible. If I don't have a skill in mind for a specific build, then my fallback is often to go to the Revive Hive, because it's always a nice to have whether you are solo or in a group. But the decoy, a nice CC or a heal would also do a good job here. For the specialization, I'm using Gunner, primarily to build on the already fast rate of fire from the FAMAS and add a little self-heal in there too. With Gunner, we are getting rate of fire increased by 5% on kill for 5 seconds. Killing enemies grants 10% armor. Every third reload is 50% faster, making it pretty much instant with fast hands. Ammo regeneration every 60 seconds for yourself and your teammates, which is useful when you consider the RPM of our AR. And we also get 10% more weapon handling when not moving for more than 1 second. And I also have my weapon damage rolled into assault rifles, shotguns and pistols. I do always feel like it's worth mentioning that my SHD watch is already over 1000, which means I have all of the extra attributes maxed out. So if your watch is not over 1000 yet, your attributes may vary to mine. Looking over the attributes of the build, I have 48.8 crit chance, and once I've finished optimization, this will land on 49.8. I've got 115.2% crit damage, which will be 117 after optimization, 120 headshot damage, 100% all weapon damage bonus, 40% assault rifle damage with the FAMAS in hand, and 29.2% shotgun damage with the ACS-12 in hand. We've gone over the gear, the weapons, but how does the build actually play? Overall, this build has a very good base damage, but the goal is to get Focus and Striker buffed as soon as possible and keep them both up, as well as Vigilance to maintain our maximum amount of damage. We cannot prep Striker, but we can prep Focus by scoping in for just a few moments before starting to fire. This gives us 50% extra damage as soon as we start a fight, and we let Striker build as you play. A quick tip with Striker, you can use enemies' shields to build Striker stacks. So if you just empty a clip into the body of his shield, you'll have full damage before you know it. To keep Vigilance up, make sure you're using the Crusader shield just to absorb a few hits. This will allow you to put out some damage before your agents start to take any. And once you've maxed out Focus, Striker and kept up Vigilance, you will be hitting pretty hard. This build also works very well in a group when the attention is pulled away from you, so you don't have to worry too much about using the shield, you can just put out damage. It can take a while to get used to playing with a fully automatic weapon scoped in, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. You just have to remember that you have a narrower field of vision while scoped in, so try to be aware of all of the enemies around you and what they're doing. Thanks for watching. If you plan on giving this build a go, let me know about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, giving it a like helps others find it, and don't forget to subscribe for future content. As always, a big thank you to my supporters over on Patreon, and if you would like to join them, you can support the channel for as little as £1 a month. You'll find the link for that in the description below. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one.